Okay, so this is my LinkedIn profile. Many of you don't know me, so you're going to learn a lot about me from my LinkedIn profile. So let's get started. So we're going to be grading the effectiveness of your LinkedIn profile as a person looking for a job in your chosen industry. So there are a few things that will help you have like a basic LinkedIn presence that we will be looking at to see if you're using LinkedIn in the, at least the most basic way possible, and having all the appropriate information about yourself listed there so people can find you and possibly hire you. So obviously, you should have a nice profile picture of yourself that is reasonably professional as your picture on LinkedIn. Your name obviously is great. You need your name so people know who you are. Under your name, it is good to have a title. And some of you might be in the beginning stages of your career and not necessarily know what you're looking to be or consider yourself as. But it's okay to choose something that you're going for, at least right at that present time. Right now, and for the last 7 years, I've been working in social media, so I am a social media consultant. If you're looking to become a software engineer, say you're a software engineer, because that's how people can find you within this tool. So another thing would be good for you to add is what area you are living in, so people can find you if they're hiring in your local area, and also what industries you work in. And for me, social media falls under marketing and advertising, and sometimes it falls under public relations too, but most of the time it falls under marketing and advertising. I am not super active on LinkedIn, but I do have a growing network of people, about 377 connections. We don't expect you to have 377 connections. It would be good to have some improvement in this number by the end of the month. But, LinkedIn's a little bit different where you can't, unless you're, it's a networking tool. So if you're making connections with people, make connections with people in your industry, other peers, other hiring managers that might be looking for the types of talent like yourself, and anyone else you think might be appropriate for you to be involved with on LinkedIn. So let's move down a little bit further. So the first part that people will see is a summary about yourself. I've had various summaries about myself that were long, some short, and I decided to keep it short here and do more explanation of what I do under my job description. So the first thing I have is just like one sentence that kind of sums up what I do, and that is spearheading engaging social media through content-driven strategies for corporate social and marketing teams. And then I have a link to my website. And that's what I do. I come in and I look at, social media in a sense where it's an editorial philosophy, and I'm always looking at content and how effective it is, testing that content, looking at the analytics, and to make sure that people are actually finding it useful and interesting, and it's not just the team that I'm on posting about their company and not considering what their fan actually wants to see. So that gives you a pretty high level explanation of what I do, and if you're more interested in me, you can go down and look at my experience. And we are suggesting that you definitely fill out any experience that you have, even if it's internships, put that in. It really says a lot about who you are and what kind of experience you've had thus far in your career. So for me, right now, I've had a social media consulting company for the last 2 years on the side. Right now, I'm full-time with it. I put in, what I do, like a high-level explanation of what I do, who my clients are right now, and what facets of my service I provide. So I provide social analysis, social content strategy, editorial calendars, metric analysis, social team training, and social team placement. So that's what I do. And that's kind of a little bit more on the business side. But for you, if you were to go, so these positions I've worked in-house for a company and explain things in a little bit different way. I have my title and I tag the company so their logo shows up from their business page on LinkedIn. It shows you as an employee. And, I talk about some of the job description and partnerships and initiatives that I did and handled and managed within the company. And that one's just, a paragraph for each main subset of tasks that I would work with and provide for that team. So as you can see, I've worked at Microsoft before. I obviously tag Microsoft when I work there, and I just remember to do that when you're filling out your experience. I've also worked at Amazon. We'll kind of go down here, and it's okay to list your experience in detail. If you don't have a lot of detail, a paragraph or two will suffice. So we'll scroll down here, past my experience. I have had one recommendation. I don't really, that kind of gets into the details of LinkedIn. If you want to work on more blogging and recommendations and things like that, you can get recommendations from clients or people you've worked with, so you have more accolades on your profile. I find it to be a little unnecessary because no matter what, anyone who is looking to hire you will be looking for references, and that's just as good as someone on your profile. But if you have someone who's willing to give you a recommendation, I'll show you how to ask them for that in just a moment. So moving down past this, there's a language section. You can list what languages you speak. I speak a little bit of French. I'm currently learning Spanish. And then you can also list your skills. And this is a new interesting feature that's kind of popped up in the last few years, where you can list kind of your top skills, and then as they go down, things that you work on within your career. And people can endorse you for those that you work with in your community. So it's kind of helpful. It's another accolade feature that people can vouch for you and say, hey, I worked with her on that, and will endorse for that. So there is an education section. I've gone to Western Washington University and had got my BA there in communications and music, and I've also done some certificate work with writing and graphic design and continuing education through an art school here in Seattle called School of Visual Concepts. Super fun school. With Western, I did tag the school. I tagged their business page. I don't think at the time School of Visual Concepts had a page, so I didn't tag them. They might have it now. And then moving on, you can put your personal interests in here. I love to bake. I'm interested in health and cooking, psychology, meditation, yoga, a lot of different things. I don't have any personal details right now. I don't think that's as relevant, but if you're welcome to fill those things out. And if you had any honors or awards, place them here, or any additional organizations that you're involved in, and I've been involved with PSMA. So that is the quick and dirty way to update your LinkedIn profile page. Couple other notes. As you can see, this area right here, when you publish, and we are not suggesting you publish about YouthSpark more than 2 times per week on LinkedIn. And if you do publish on LinkedIn, like we were talking about in Twitter, it's really important that you publish different things and not just about YouthSpark. So same content strategy there. Find other things that might be relevant to your network of people. So if there are some fun tips that you think are interesting and might be useful to people, post those. And the way you can publish, on your home feed, well, first, when you're on your profile, you can say, yes, publish. Well, this is where you publish changes. So if I made any changes here, this would publish to my feed, which is good because it's letting people know that some different changes are happening for me and they're paying attention to that. When we go to our home feed, it's going a little bit slow. I'll be able to see the feeds of everyone else as they're talking about different issues and items within their community, and that is also where I can post. And you can also do, when you update your title or any links in your website, that can be posted there as well. Or if you've been endorsed for anything, sometimes that shows up in your feed. So this is a good example. LinkedIn is recommending content for me, but if I wanted to, @mention anybody or share an update about what I'm doing, or share a cool article, like the #1 reason you're not getting that promotion, this would be where you do it. So we're going to go back to my profile. Actually, I'll just go to profile. And it's loading a little bit slow for me right now, but I think we'll get there. And here's another example of things that you'll see in your feed. This woman is now following some other brands on LinkedIn, so you see, people's activity and who they're following, and then sometimes that's a great call out for you if you're looking at the feed and you're like, oh, that's interesting. I might want to follow them too, and so you end up going and checking them out. So that's kind of the cool thing about LinkedIn. You can view your recent activity right here. I'll click on that in just a second. You can ask to be recommended on your file too, or on your profile, by a former boss, a hiring manager, a fellow peer, and you can create another profile in another language. You can share your profile. You can save your profile to a PDF if you wanted to share it with someone. And you can manage your public profile settings that people can see when they're not actually logged in as you. So if we're going to go to view recent activity, it might take a little bit to get there again. But this is where it shows, current updates that are kind of scattered and sprinkled through the home feed and that people are going to see from you. So as it's loading here, I'll just wait for my internet because it tends to be slow right at this moment. But yeah, I've had a couple updates in the last week. I spoke at the Gates Foundation on Wednesday for an hour just about social media and answered a lot of questions for their comm team. 7 people liked that. That means it was pretty interesting to people that I was doing that. Really looking for the likes that you get on your content, and if anyone comments. We don't always see a lot of comments on LinkedIn unless you're like Richard Branson or someone incredibly famous thought leader. And if anyone shares, but most of the time you'll see a lot of likes of your content if it's doing well. And when people have work anniversaries, I definitely like that content or give them a congratulations. So that also shows in your feed as your activity. So not too active in last week, but as you start to develop what you want to talk about as an influencer, it'll be good to have at least 3 or more posts a week about what you're doing in your community. And so that is it for LinkedIn. And so if you have any other questions about how to use this tool or change your profile, please comment on this post in our private Facebook page.